Imagine being just 17 years old, barely out of childhood, stepping into a world torn apart by war, and finding yourself in situations that demand courage beyond imagination. This was the reality for Audie Murphy, a young Texan whose name would become synonymous with heroism, resilience, and unyielding bravery during World War II. Born in Kingston, Texas, in 1925, Murphy grew up in extreme poverty, one of 12 children in a family struggling to survive during the Great Depression. Education was limited, and work came early. From running errands to helping on the farm, young Audie learned the value of hard work and determination, traits that would later define his military career. Despite his hardships, Murphy was physically strong and remarkably agile. Yet, like many boys his age, he craved adventure and purpose. When the United States entered World War II, Audie did not hesitate. At the age of 17, he lied about his age to enlist in the army, driven by a sense of duty and an urge to protect his country. Standing barely 5 feet 6 inches and weighing less than most grown men he would later fight alongside, Murphy's stature was modest, but his courage was immense. From the beginning, he impressed superiors with his discipline, sharp instincts, and ability to remain calm under pressure. Murphy's journey took him first to the battlefields of North Africa and then to Europe, where the real test of his heroism began. He was deployed to Italy, facing harsh mountain terrain, cold winters, and relentless German opposition. It was here that Murphy developed his reputation for exceptional marksmanship, tactical intelligence, and fearless leadership. Fellow soldiers noted his uncanny ability to assess danger quickly, make decisive moves, and inspire those around him to act beyond their perceived limits. One of the defining moments of Murphy's military career occurred in January 1945, near Holtzwihr, France. The situation was dire. German tanks and infantry were advancing rapidly, threatening to overrun his company. Despite being wounded, Murphy mounted an exposed burning machine gun, alone, and held off an entire company of enemy soldiers. For nearly an hour, he fired relentlessly, repositioning as needed, calling artillery strikes, and refusing to retreat. His actions not only stopped the German advance but also saved countless American lives, allowing his unit to regroup and counterattack. This extraordinary feat earned him the Medal of Honor, the United States' highest military decoration. But Murphy's heroism was far from a single act of bravery. Over the course of his service, he accumulated more than 30 awards, including Distinguished Service Crosses, Silver Stars, Bronze Stars, and multiple Purple Hearts. Each decoration represented a moment where he risked life and limb to protect fellow soldiers, secure strategic objectives, and stand firm in the face of near impossible odds. These actions were not fueled by a desire for recognition but by an unwavering sense of duty, courage, and loyalty to his comrades. Murphy's life in combat was grueling and psychologically demanding. He witnessed death on a scale few could imagine, often standing on the front lines where the margin between life and death was measured in seconds. The stress of constant engagement, fear, and the loss of friends would have broken many. Yet Murphy's resilience and determination allowed him not only to survive but also to excel, demonstrating a rare combination of mental fortitude and physical bravery. After the war, Audie Murphy faced a new battlefield: civilian life. Unlike many veterans, he found a path in Hollywood, where he became an actor portraying the very heroism he had lived. His autobiography, To Hell and Back, was later adapted into a film starring Murphy himself, bringing his incredible experiences to the big screen. Yet even in Hollywood, he never sought to glorify war. Instead, he honored the courage of ordinary soldiers who performed extraordinary acts under unimaginable circumstances. Audie Murphy's story is more than a chronicle of battlefield heroism, it is a lesson in resilience, determination, and the human spirit. He proved that courage is not defined by age, size, or background, but by the willingness to act in the face of danger and adversity. From a poor farm boy in Texas to one of the most decorated soldiers in American history, Murphy's journey illustrates how ordinary individuals can achieve extraordinary feats when motivated by purpose and principle. Even decades after his death in 1971, Murphy's legacy continues to inspire. Monuments in his honor, military awards, and countless biographies preserve the memory of a young man who stood against overwhelming odds. Historians and veterans alike celebrate him not merely for his battlefield exploits but for what he represents, the essence of bravery, selflessness, and commitment. His life reminds us that history is shaped not only by grand strategies and generals but also by individuals willing to act courageously in critical moments. Audie Murphy's name, etched in military annals and popular culture alike, embodies the timeless truth that heroism often emerges in the most unlikely forms. He showed the world that even the youngest, most underestimated individuals can leave an indelible mark on history when guided by courage, integrity, and an unwavering dedication to a cause greater than themselves. From the hills of Texas to the forests of Europe, Murphy's story is a testament to the extraordinary human potential for bravery and sacrifice, a legacy that continues to resonate, inspire, and remind us that in the darkest hours, ordinary people can become legends. The Ghost Army, fighting war with art and illusion. What if an entire army existed on paper, in sound, and in shadows, capable of misleading a deadly enemy without firing a single bullet? This was the astonishing reality of the Ghost Army, a secret American unit during World War II whose mission was not to conquer territory but to deceive, distract, and confuse the German forces using creativity, strategy, and pure ingenuity. While traditional soldiers fought with rifles and artillery, this army wielded inflatable tanks, fake artillery, elaborate sound effects, and clever illusions, turning art and engineering into weapons of war. The Ghost Army, officially known as the 23rd Headquarters Special Troops, was formed in 1944. It consisted of approximately 1,100 men, many of whom were artists, designers, sound engineers, and engineers recruited from New York art schools, theaters, and advertising agencies. Their mission was highly unusual and extremely dangerous: create the illusion of massive troop movements, mislead the enemy about Allied positions, and ensure that real forces could move safely and launch attacks with minimal resistance. Unlike conventional combat units, their power lay in psychology, creativity, and deception rather than brute force. One of their primary tools was inflatable tanks and jeeps. These rubber decoys, mounted on trucks or positioned strategically in open fields, could fool German reconnaissance planes from miles above. In addition, the unit deployed recorded sounds of troop movements, marching, and vehicle engines broadcast over massive speakers across the battlefield. This audio illusion made the enemy believe an entire division was present when, in reality, only a few dozen soldiers were operating nearby. The Ghost Army also used fake radio transmissions, mimicking the communication patterns of full brigades, further cementing the illusion of overwhelming force. One of the most celebrated operations took place in France, just before the Allied advance toward the Rhine River. The Ghost Army set up decoy positions near towns that were heavily monitored by German scouts. Inflatable tanks were arranged along roads, fake campfires and tents were constructed, and sound trucks played the noise of troop movements continuously. The Germans, convinced they faced an enormous Allied presence, repositioned their forces to defend areas that were never actually threatened, allowing real American units to advance without direct confrontation. In some cases, entire enemy divisions were drawn away from strategic points, saving countless lives and accelerating the liberation of French towns. The men of the Ghost Army worked under constant threat. Although their primary mission was deception, they often operated close to front lines, making them vulnerable to artillery, patrols, and airstrikes. The creative strategies that seemed playful on the surface, blowing up rubber tanks to simulate battle damage, projecting giant shadows of soldiers across fields, even creating fake insignias, required precision, courage, and unwavering composure under pressure. Mistakes could mean death, yet these artists-turned-soldiers executed their missions flawlessly time and again. In addition to battlefield tactics, the Ghost Army emphasized mobility and adaptability. Every setup was temporary, often lasting mere hours before relocating. Units had to assemble, deploy, and dismantle decoys quickly while maintaining the illusion of massive forces in place. This required meticulous planning, a deep understanding of human psychology, and innovative thinking skills that would have seemed unconventional in a traditional military setting. Yet these qualities were exactly what made the Ghost Army so effective. Their contribution was significant. Historians estimate that the Ghost Army's operations directly saved thousands of lives and played a key role in several critical Allied campaigns across France and Germany. By misleading German forces about troop strength and movements, the Ghost Army allowed real combat units to maneuver strategically, seize objectives, and achieve victories with minimal losses. Their work was a perfect example of how intelligence, creativity, and art could be weaponized in war. For decades, the Ghost Army remained a closely guarded secret. The men were sworn to silence, and their accomplishments were largely unknown to the public until long after the war. It was only in the 1990s that the unit's exploits were officially declassified, revealing the extraordinary ingenuity and bravery of soldiers who fought a war of shadows. Today, their legacy is celebrated in exhibitions, books, and documentaries, showcasing how innovation and courage can redefine the rules of warfare. Beyond tactics, the Ghost Army represented a unique human story. Many soldiers were young artists and designers suddenly thrust into a world of life-or-death stakes. Their creativity, imagination, and technical skills became their shields and weapons. They painted, sculpted, engineered, and strategized, all while under constant threat, demonstrating that heroism is not confined to rifles and tanks. Some men even used camouflage techniques they had learned in art school to blend entire units into the landscape, turning forests, roadsides, and fields into illusions so convincing that enemy reconnaissance aircraft passed over without suspicion. The unit also embodied collaboration at its finest. Soldiers with no prior military experience learned from seasoned officers, and engineers teamed with sound technicians to create entirely new forms of battlefield strategy. This blending of art, science, and military discipline challenged conventional ideas of what it meant to be a soldier. Their success relied not just on courage but on innovation, intelligence, and the ability to anticipate the enemy's perceptions. Ultimately, the Ghost Army's story is a testament to human creativity under extreme pressure. It illustrates that war is not only fought with bullets and bombs but also with ideas, strategy, and daring imagination. The unit's men risked everything to protect lives and secure victory, and their work proved that unconventional thinking can change the course of history. While famous generals and epic battles dominate history books, the Ghost Army reminds us that there are unsung heroes whose ingenuity and bravery quietly shape the outcome of war. From inflatable tanks on French fields to sound trucks echoing through forests, the Ghost Army's operations read like something out of a thriller. Yet it was real, executed by real men who defied danger with nothing more than creativity, precision, and courage. Today, Their story inspires not only military historians but also anyone who believes that innovation and bold thinking can overcome even the most formidable challenges. Unsung heroes of the American front, courage beyond the battlefield. Victory in war is often measured not only by battles won but by the countless unseen acts of courage, intelligence, and sacrifice that make those victories possible. During World War II, while headlines celebrated generals and frontline soldiers, thousands of Americans quietly shaped the outcome of the war through ingenuity, determination, and sheer bravery. These were the unsung heroes whose names rarely appeared in history books but whose contributions were critical to Allied success. One of the most vital yet overlooked operations was the Red Ball Express, a massive logistical effort that kept Allied armies supplied as they advanced through Europe. Composed primarily of African American truck drivers, this convoy system moved fuel, ammunition, food, and medical supplies across war-torn France at breakneck speed. The roads were perilous, often targeted by German artillery, mines, and ambushes. Drivers endured long hours, extreme weather, and constant danger. Despite these conditions, the Red Ball Express kept the front lines operational, ensuring that soldiers and tanks could push forward without delay. These drivers were unsung lifelines of the war, proving that courage isn't confined to combat alone, sometimes it rides on wheels across hostile territory. Equally remarkable were the Navajo Code Talkers, a group of Native American soldiers who created an unbreakable communication code based on their language. The Japanese military, despite sophisticated intelligence networks, could not decipher the code, which allowed Allied forces to transmit vital messages quickly and securely. Hundreds of Navajo men served in this capacity, often under fire, coordinating troop movements, artillery strikes, and supply logistics. Their contributions were critical in campaigns across the Pacific, demonstrating that knowledge, culture, and language could become powerful tools in the arsenal of war. Another extraordinary example of strategic ingenuity was Operation Mincemeat, a daring deception designed to mislead German forces about Allied invasion plans. British and American intelligence officers planted false documents on a corpse disguised as a British officer, leading the Nazis to believe that the Allies would attack Greece instead of Sicily. This clever ruse diverted enemy forces, saving thousands of lives during the actual invasion. While not conducted by front-line soldiers, operations like this highlight the often invisible layers of strategy that determine the course of the war. Intelligence, creativity, and careful planning became as crucial as rifles and tanks. Beyond logistics and intelligence, ordinary soldiers performed acts of extraordinary bravery daily. Medics, engineers, and reconnaissance teams routinely risked their lives to save others, clear dangerous terrain, and gather critical information. For instance, combat medics treated wounds under fire, often exposing themselves to enemy bullets to carry soldiers to safety. Engineers dismantled mines and repaired bridges under artillery bombardment, enabling entire divisions to advance. These roles, though less glamorous than frontline combat, were essential to sustaining military operations and minimizing casualties. The unsung heroes also included women in the workforce and military auxiliary services. Members of the Women's Army Corps, WACS, nurses, and clerical personnel ensured that operations ran smoothly, supplies were organized, and communication lines remained intact. Their contributions were invaluable, allowing combat troops to focus on the battlefield while administrative and medical support kept the army functional. Without these women, the scale and speed of Allied operations would have been impossible. Even in intelligence and espionage, countless Americans operated in shadows to manipulate enemy perception and gain strategic advantage. From codebreakers deciphering German communications at Bletchley Park to operatives coordinating resistance efforts across occupied territories, These efforts prevented countless casualties and provided commanders with the information necessary to make decisive moves. Their bravery was often silent, their recognition delayed, but their impact undeniable. These unsung heroes shared common traits: courage, ingenuity, and a willingness to act when the stakes were highest. They demonstrated that warfare is not solely defined by firepower but by coordination, communication, and the ability to anticipate the enemy's moves. Whether driving perilous supply routes, crafting secret codes, executing deceptive operations, or performing life-saving acts under fire, they proved that heroism takes many forms. The lessons from these stories remain relevant today. True courage often occurs behind the scenes, unnoticed, yet pivotal. The Red Ball Express, the Navajo Code Talkers, and secret intelligence operations remind us that victory depends on collaboration, innovation, and selflessness. History tends to celebrate visible triumphs, but these hidden contributions are equally deserving of recognition. Without them, even the most celebrated battles could have ended in failure. The American front during World War II, therefore, was not only a story of tanks, rifles, and infantry assaults. It was a mosaic of bravery, skill, and innovation performed by countless individuals who acted decisively in roles that demanded intellect, precision, and courage. Every supply truck delivered, every coded message sent, every mine defused, and every strategic deception executed played a part in the larger tapestry of Allied success. In reflecting on these unsung heroes, it becomes clear that war is as much about human ingenuity as it is about firepower. They demonstrate that ordinary people, when called upon, can achieve extraordinary outcomes through intelligence, perseverance, and selfless action. Their stories, though less celebrated, deserve the spotlight for the profound impact they had on shaping history. From truck drivers navigating deadly roads to Native American soldiers transmitting unbreakable codes, from clever deception operations to medics risking their lives to save comrades, the unsung heroes of the American front exemplify the diverse forms of courage and sacrifice. Their legacy teaches that every contribution, no matter how hidden, has the power to change the course of events, proving that heroism is both visible and invisible, immediate and enduring. As the world remembers the famous generals, decorated soldiers, and iconic battles of World War II, it is equally important to honor those who worked in the shadows, behind the scenes, and in unconventional roles, ensuring victory for generations to come. These unsung heroes remind us that history is not only made by those on the front lines but also by those who quietly and courageously shape the battlefield in ways the world may never fully see.